Hey, what's up guys? Reveal coming at you with another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile. And today we're going to be taking a look at my Blue-Eyes Shinning Dragon Turbo deck profile. And for those of you guys who haven't already, I'd like you very much to check out my channel for my other videos and leave a comment if you really like this video about some ways that I can potentially improve the speed of the deck. And please subscribe also if you like my videos, it helps a lot. Also, please give my Facebook page a like, facebook.com/RafeelsReviews, and if you want to follow me on Instagram, instagram.com/Rafael117. So without any further ado, let's get into the profile. So obviously we're going to start off with 2 copies of Blue-Eyes Shining Dragon. So for those of you who aren't aware of Blue-Eyes Shining Dragon, he was Kaiba's boss monster used back in the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Movie, and he is a level 10 dragon with the same base set line as the Blue-Eyes White Dragon. However, he cannot be normal summoned or set, and he can only be special summoned by attributing a Blue-Eyes Ultimate Dragon that we control. He gains 300 extra attack points for every dragon in our grave, and any effect that specifically targets him, we can negate as many times as we want. So, the reason why we play 2 is we don't want to see it too much. It is sort of searchable by a lot of the support in Blue-Eyes, and it cannot be ditched for cards like Trade-In, unfortunately, because it is a level 10, but it is searchable enough that we can get away with running 2, but not enough to warrant only running 1. Next up, we have 3 copies of the Blue-Eyes White Dragon. So any 3 Blue-Eyes arts you want to run is perfectly up to you. So we've got to play 3 copies of the original Blue-Eyes because we need to fuse 3 Blue-Eyes to play Blue-Eyes Ultimate Dragon, and then tribute that to summon our Shining Dragon. Very straightforward there. Next up, we have 3 copies of the original Blue-Eyes Tuner, the White Stone of Legend. So we're not necessarily going to be using this for the fact that it's a tuner, mostly because when this card hits graveyard, we get to add a Blue-Eyes from our deck to our hand. So we can use it in the sense that it is a tuner that we're going to use cards like Cards of Consonance to discard this to draw 2 cards and get a Blue-Eyes straight to our hand. So very, very important for us. Next up, so we have 5 Cards of Consonance targets, we are playing 2 copies of the White Stone of Ancients. So the White Stones of Ancients is a much more reliable tuner in terms of most Blue-Eyes decks. However, for us, it is imperative that we get Blue-Eyes to our hand faster than what Ancients can give us. So Ancients, when in the turn it's sent to the graveyard, we can special summon a Blue-Eyes monster from our deck, and we can banish it from our graveyard to add a Blue-Eyes monster from our graveyard back to our hand. So we can potentially add Shining Dragon back to our hand if we mill it. For us, like I said, Legend is a lot faster for us because we don't really want to wait 1 turn to do that. Sometimes we have to, but we mostly just use it because it is a additional Cards of Consonance target. Only play 2. You can bump it up to 3 if you want to bump this guy, Sage with Eyes of Blue, down to 1. So Sage with Eyes of Blue, when it is normal summoned, you can search your deck for any level 1 light tuner. So we're going to either search for Legend or Ancients. And it has another effect that we can discard it from our hand to target an effect monster we control, send it to the graveyard, and special summon a Blue-Eyes monster from our deck. So in the most case, if we open up with this guy and a White Stone of Legend, we can summon a White Stone of Legend, use this guy's effect to send the Legend to grave, add a Blue-Eyes to our hand, and special summon the Blue-Eyes as well. So pretty cool. Next up, we have 3 copies of the Blue-Eyes Alternative White Dragon. So Blue-Eyes Alternative White Dragon counts as Blue-Eyes White Dragon while it's on the field or in our graveyard. So technically we have at least 6 targets for our Ultimate Dragon. However, this guy cannot be normal summoned or set, and it must first be special summoned by revealing another Blue-Eyes White Dragon in our hand. And its other effect is, once per turn, we can target 1 monster our opponent controls and destroy it, then Alternative can't attack that turn. But it is a level 8 dragon as well, meaning it is a trade-in target. Next up, we have 2 copies of Dragon Spirit of White. Dragon Spirit of White is a very versatile card for us in this deck. First off, it is a level 8 monster, meaning it is a trade-in target. It also counts as a normal monster while it's on the field and in our graveyard. Oh, sorry, while it's in our hand or in the graveyard. So really, really handy. So we can use cards like Dragon Shrine for this guy, send him to the graveyard, and then we get to send another normal monster, another dragon. So for us, we can send this guy, then we can send down like a White Stone of Legend or something and get a Blue-Eyes. So we don't have to send our regular Blue-Eyes down to us because we don't really want them in the graveyard that often. As well as that, when he's special summoned or normal summoned, we can target 1 spell trap our opponent controls, banish it. And if he's on the field and our opponent controls monster, we can tribute it and summon the Blue-Eyes from our hand. We're mostly going to use it for the mill effect, for the fact that it's a normal monster, so we can basically mill with Dragon Shrine. Our last 3 monsters we play in the deck are 3 King of the Swamp, very straightforward. King of the Swamp can be ditched to search Poly, or it can be a Blue-Eyes White Dragon. Very, very important for us. Because sometimes we can't get all our Blue-Eyes, and it's had a lot of problems with this deck with actually getting Poly to my hand. Next up, we have 3 cards of Connaissance. This card is really, really strong for us because we can discard a level Dragon Tuner with 1,000 less attack points and draw 2 cards. Most of the time, we're going to be discarding our White Stone of Legend if possible to draw 2 cards and get a Blue Eyes White Dragon. This card is also not once per turn, so you can play a bunch of them in 1 turn. Once we have our Blue Eyes in our hand, we can go into something like Trading, which is another card we run 3 of, discard a level 8 monster and draw 2 cards. So if we go from White Stone of Legend with Card of Constance and then into Trading, we can thin our deck at least 5 cards. So really, really good for us. Another card that we can also play more than once per turn is Melody of the Awakening Dragon. Discard 1 card from our hand. So if we brick with them with 2 Polys or a Fusion Sage and a Poly or anything like that, we can get rid of that extra card to use Melody to search our deck for 2 dragons with 3,000 or more attack points or 2,500 or less defense points. So that includes for us a Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, Blue Eyes White Dragon, or Blue Eyes Shining Dragon. This card also works really well with White Stone of Legends because we can discard White Stone of Legend, add a Blue Eyes off that, and then add an alternative in a Shining if we want through Melody, or just use it to get 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons in our hand, just like that. Really, really handy for us. Next up, we have 2 copies of Dragon Shrine. So this is one of the only 2 spell cards in our deck that we can only play once per turn. It allows us to send a Dragon-type monster from our deck to the graveyard, and if it's a normal, we can send another one. So most of the time, we're going to be sending down Dragon Spirit White and sending down a White Stone of Legend, so we can get a Blue Eye straight to our hand. I only play 2 because you can only play it once per turn, and you're not really going to want to see it too much. Next up, we got 1 copy of the Silver's Cry. This is a quick play spell that you can only play once per turn. It lets you target a normal dragon-type monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So you can activate 1 per turn. So the reason why I play 1 of this as a quick play is in case you do brick on your first turn and you can't summon the Shining Dragon, and you do have a Blue Eyes or a Dragon Spirit White in graveyard, you can use this to defend yourself a little bit. Obviously, you could play 3 Return of the Dragon Lords instead of playing 1 Silver's Cry. I like to play 2 Return of the Dragon Lords and 1 Silver's Cry, mostly because Silver's Cry is the Azorius Silver Dragon on the artwork, and Return of the Dragon, so I like to keep it as much Blue Eyes as possible, but it's still a decent card. Return of the Dragon Lords lets you target a level 7 or 8 Dragon monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Also, while it's in graveyard, if Dragon monsters would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish it from your graveyard instead, so really, really good card. Next up, we got 3 copies of Polymerization. Pretty straightforward. We need to summon Ultimate Dragon, and the only way to do that is to use Poly. So we need 3. And next up, we have 2 copies of Fusion Sage. Now, I don't actually own any copies of Fusion Sage because it is a very old card. Basically, discard it from your hand, get a Poly. I was running 3 King of the Swamp and 3 Poly, and despite all my draw cards, was still having issues getting Poly. So now with 2 Fusion Sage, 3 Poly, and 3 King of the Swamp, I theoretically have 8 Polys in my deck because of the ways I can search. And finally, for our last spell card, we do have 1 Dragon's Mirror, because it is perfectly possible, if you get the right cards in your hand, to have 2 Shining Dragons out just to meme. Moving on to our extra deck now. So starting off, of course, we have our Kyber token, which looks really nice. We have, obviously, the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, and I played 3 copies, because Dragon's Mirror is relevant, and we can use, we can go into 2 Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragons. Very straightforward. It is basically a vanilla fusion monster, so it is not an effect monster, so any card your opponent has that targets specifically effect monsters won't work on this guy. Next up, we have 1 copy of Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. So Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon can only be summoned through Fusion Summon, but it has the same summoning fusion materials as the regular Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. But if it's the only monster you control, it can attack up to 3 times, so long as we send Blue Eyes fusion monsters from our extra deck to the graveyard. Next up, we have our last 2 Blue Eyes fusion monsters, 2 Blue Eyes Twin Burst Dragons. So this guy can be played with Poly or contact fused on your field. So obviously, if you have the 2 dragons on your field, you're going to contact fuse, but if you've got one in your hand, one on the field, you're going to use a Poly. It cannot be destroyed by battle, and it can attack twice per turn if it's attacking monsters. And if it's battling a monster and that monster's not destroyed, you get to banish it instead. So it's a decent stall card for you. And now moving on to our synchros, we have 2 copies of Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. So Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon is something you're not really going to want to go into too much. Another one of your stall options, but you really don't want to rely on it too much. It locks out your opponent or both players from summoning more than two or more monsters at the same time. So it pretty much locks down Pendulum Summoning. It can negate effects out of graveyard once per turn. And during each player's turn, you contribute it to summon any light dragon synchro monster you want from your extra deck. So that opens up a lot of options for you. And it is a Blue Eyes monster, and it is a dragon, so it will give your Shining Dragon extra attack points. Our main target from Spirit of White is going to be Azura's Silver Dragon, because it is able to special summon normal type monsters from our graveyard once per turn during our standby phase. This does brick us a little bit in the sense that it does take up an extra monster zone, but it can also be a decent stall if you want to try and do something else with the deck, but nothing you really want to rely on too much. The turn it's special summoned, however, it can, dragon type monsters you currently control cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects. So really, really cool. And finally, our last monster that we play really is just Star Spark Dragon. Can be played through Blue-Eyes Spirit Dragon, and once per turn during your player's turn, you can target one face-up card you control. Once during this turn, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. So, not super reliable, but not super bad. But anyway, guys, that was my deck profile for my Shinning Dragon Turbo. If you guys have any suggestions, like I said before, on how I can increase the speed of the deck, as I'm still working on it, please let me know in the comments below. And I'm hoping at some point to do a video full of some test hands for this deck. But anyway, guys, for now, thank you so much for checking out my video, and I look forward to you guys watching my next video. Alright, catch you later, guys.